In this sacred space, let your heart open to the timeless whispers of grace and truth. You have the charisma of the chosen one, making everyone else seem like supporting characters. They despise you because you didn't make an announcement or demand attention. But there you are, chosen one, the walking narrative twist that no one saw coming. The magnificent, scary force of nature who stopped acting like just another face in the crowd. You simply were. And for some reason, that was sufficient to make their meticulously practiced lines sound unreal. While you destroyed your screenplay and began improvising reality itself, you give them the sensation of being scripted, predictable, and like non-player characters in someone else's drama. Let me explain the vitality of the main character. Being noisy isn't the point. It's not about making demands. It involves navigating the environment as though you are the only one aware of the film's conclusion. And you do. Spoiler warning. As you can see, the majority of people get up every morning and try out for the part of themselves. They practice their grins, check their mirror, and practice small conversation. They are always acting because they are yearning for praise, approval, and confirmation that they are fulfilling their role. The day you discovered you were already cast, not because you were handed the role, but because you wrote yourself into it, you stop trying out. In your own psychological thriller, you become the star, the director, and the author. At this point, they are all merely background noise. Extras are employed to fill in the blanks in your scenes. They also feel it. They congregate together because of this, chatting about your presence, energy, and vibe. They are attempting to comprehend why, in your three-dimensional environment, they feel suddenly two-dimensional. It wasn't an overnight enlightenment. It was a slow realization that you were unique, that you always were, and that your greatest strength was actually your intensity, depth, and refusal to play small, the same qualities they attempted to disgrace you for. You can pinpoint the precise time you lost interest in their viewpoint. There was no drama. Neither a collapse nor a breakthrough occurred. It was simply a silent awareness that their rejection and acceptance no longer meant anything to you. You realized then that you had been living inside their simulation, abiding by their regulations, and putting up with their restrictions. You found powers they couldn't even understand the instant you left their framework. Their reality began to change as a result of your enlightenment. Their carefully crafted environment of safe dialogue and predictable interactions felt hollow all of a sudden. You turned into the anomaly that revealed the artificiality of their existence, the fault in their matrix. Neither vision boards nor positive affirmations provided this energy. It originated from something far deeper and darker, from the instant you gave up attempting to fit into their story. When was the last time you dimmed yourself? As soon as you walked into a room, you would start figuring out how much of yourself to show, how much brilliance was dangerous, how much personality was too much, and how much honesty was acceptable. You engaged in their game. Their script was known to you. You delivered your lines and hit your targets. And where did you end up? You were typecast as a character you never tried out for, reduced to a part that had you constantly shrink, apologize, and explain yourself, until one day something suddenly clicked back into place like a dislocated joint. You came to the realization that you weren't destined to play a supporting role in someone else's narrative. You were supposed to be the main character in your own story. You used to bargain with reality in the past. The new you demands it. The previous you look to the audience for approval. You came to the realization that the audience that counts is you. Clarity, the harsh, uncompromising clarity that results from seeing through the delusion that everyone else takes for granted, was what made you, not sadness or suffering. When you send $15, it may seem small, but like everything given in faith, it will be multiplied in heaven. You witnessed how they compromised their true selves in order to fit in. You saw how they gave up their aspirations to live comfortably as regular people. And you made a different decision. Instead of being the victim in your own story, you decided to be the antagonist in theirs. Instead of disappointing yourself, you choose to let them down. Instead of being understood but devalued, you opted to be misinterpreted. It took some time to get to this decision. It was created in a time of exhaustion. Exhaustion from acting, from pretending, from being less than yourself in order to please other people. The furnaces of rejection, criticism, and loneliness fashioned your metamorphosis. You took it as validation that you were just right for yourself each time somebody told you that you were too much. You interpreted their attempts to downplay your goals as evidence that your aspirations were too lofty for their immature brains to handle. You should be proud of your power's sinister beginnings rather than ashamed of it. It indicates that authenticity came at a cost. You suffered to gain your sovereignty. You used their disapproval to purchase your freedom. For this reason, you can meet people who prioritize truth over performance in the obsidian inner order. We recognize the loneliness of seeing what others won't accept, the weariness of continual social translation, and the relief of at last being accepted for who you truly are. You will never be abandoned by us. I will never leave you to face this realization by yourself. You will never disregard your yearning for genuine connection as if it were mere content. We connect from areas of actual truth, communicate without scripts, and appear without masks in the obsidian inner order. You are no longer need to pretend. You are not required to perform. At last, you can just be. Click the link in the description to join the obsidian inner order. The actual change started at that point. You began rewriting your own code gradually, systematically, and not all at once. When you discovered that most discussions were just people reading scripts to each other, empty chatter meant to fill awkward silences, you started to selectively silence yourself, not because you had nothing to say. You chose not to attend the concert. You began to move differently, not haughtily, but deliberately, like someone who, even while still, knows exactly where they're going. You went from seeking space to possessing it, and your body language changed from apologetic to dominant. You acquired what is known as presence, that intangible trait that makes others stand up straight when you're present. Being present is something you stop suppressing, not something you learn. It is the result of ceasing to apologize for the space you inhabit. Your voice changes as well, not louder, but clearer. Not more words, but more weight behind each one. When you stopped pleading with the universe to allow you to be wonderful, you began to let your quiet speak for itself, instead of filling it with anxious speech. Every pause and every syllable became purposeful. Your nervous system switched from survival mode to sovereignty mode, causing a cellular shift. Reactive was changed to responsive as your default setting. You took control of your own life and ceased to be a passenger. You got rid of the necessity of self-explanation initially. You came to the realization that those who require explanations are irrelevant, and those who are important don't require them. Your actions, not your explanations, made your decisions obvious. You ceased looking for agreement when making decisions. Democracy is for governments, not for you. You took on the role of a kind dictator over your own life, making executive choices without seeking input from others. Your perspective on time underwent a significant shift. You became choosy and quit being busy. You came to see that being busy was really a charade, a means of evading the actual task of leading an authentic life. You started to guard your presence, your energy, and your attention. Your ability to tolerate mediocrity was impacted by the transformation. You no longer put up with mediocre work, ambivalent promises, and conditional affection. You set higher expectations for yourself as well as for other people. Your default setting became excellence. When you give $50, it is like the seed that falls on the fertile soil in Matthew 13. Not 1/40th will return to you, but perhaps 1/100th. You gained the ability to say goodbye guilt-free, yes without doubt, and no without justification. Your choices became final, unambiguous, and clean. On non-negotiable issues, you cease to allow for negotiation. The new you only apologizes for sincere errors, whereas the old you used to apologize for even existing. The new you just became great and allowed others to adapt, whereas the old you asked for permission to be great. You now enter rooms and set up weather controls. Because authenticity is like lightning in a clear sky. Difficult to ignore, your attitude becomes the atmospheric pressure that everyone else adjusts to, not because you demand it. Entering a room causes reality to restructure itself, not dramatically or visibly, but rather with a subtle shift in the matrix. Suddenly, conversation seems scripted, and laughter seems artificial. Everybody gets really conscious of how they perform. They're trapped at 24 frames per second, while you're moving at 60. They're still buffering in regular definition, but you're in 4K. The simulation is exposed by your very presence, and they are aware of their programming error. The change from "we're all in this together" to "wait, why does it feel like they're the main character here?" is something people can feel in their bones. They are unable to identify it, yet they are aware that something has changed. The rules are no longer the same. When you sustain this energy on a regular basis, see the results. Both responses provide all you need to know about people's personal circumstances, and the room splits into two factions. Like planets to a sun, certain people will be drawn to you. Unbeknownst to them, they will sense something new, something tangible, something they have been craving. After their own performance, these are the ones who are prepared to wake up. They are not extras in your story, but when they witness you living your life without apology, something inside of them says, "Maybe I could do that too." Because of your example, they have the ability to become their own main characters. Instead of attempting to imitate you, they begin to find their own true frequency. You belong to this group. Others will respond to a virus similarly to antibodies. They will attempt to humiliate you into a supporting position once more. They will use terms like selfish, narcissist, and changed. They will stop at nothing to get you to doubt this energy and feel bad about no longer playing along. Because your presence as a prominent character jeopardizes the performance's entire ecosystem, their response is aggressive. They are scared because if you can simply choose to be the main character and opt out of the performance, then what have they been doing all this time? You have violated the unwritten rule that everyone stays tiny, stays scripted, and stays safe. For what purpose have they been compromising their authenticity? You can't return to being edited by committee once you've experienced what it's like to write your own life. You can't go back to continuously apologizing for your existence once you experience the strength of living without apologies. In a calm, certain way, like someone who has found they can breathe underwater while everyone else is still holding their air, you have become uncontrollable, not in a defiant, chaotic way. Not only were your standards boosted, but they were radically transformed. Relationships that demand you to be a lesser version of yourself are no longer acceptable to you. You don't have talks that seem to be script readings anymore. When your story takes unexpected turns, you no longer feel the need to apologize. All of a sudden, your life begins to appear to be in a whole different genre from everyone else's. You're living somewhere between an epic adventure and a psychological thriller, even though they're still playing characters in cliched romantic comedies or office dramas. You now follow distinct rules, natural laws that arise when you enter main character energy, not rules that have been forced on you by others. Around you, time moves differently. To you, what seems like a hurry to others seems like the ideal moment. Knowing that your situations will occur when they are supposed to is what others perceive as patience. The key characters don't look to the camera to defend their decisions because you've ceased describing your story twists. They simply create them. A $40 contribution is like the North Star guiding a lost soul at sunset. They don't tell you about the negative impacts of this energy. Synchronicities begin to occur. The universe starts reacting to you in a different way because you've finally started acting like the major character you've always been, not because you're unique. There are opportunities that seem to be made just for you. At the right time, people from your past come back into your life. You get exactly what you need to hear from strangers. It's as if genuine players are rewarded with stronger plots by reality itself. You actually begin to live in a separate timeline, not a parallel reality, but the same world seen from a completely different perspective. You've learned that time can be negotiated while they're still living in linear time, checking boxes and going down preset routes. You've stopped allowing your past to dictate your future, so it no longer defines you. The limiting ideas, the old storylines, and the inherited scripts are all part of a character you no longer play. You have essentially changed the meaning of your own backstory, not by denying it. This explains why there are more synchronicity events around you. Cause and effect no longer apply to you. Similarly, you begin to access what seem like cheat codes to reality when you are the primary character. The book on the right falls from the shelf. The ideal individual shows up with the precise details you require. Before you even fully formulate the problem, solutions start to emerge. In the meantime, they continue to live in a time when everything takes an eternity, when you have to pay your dues and follow the right order. You've learned that sequence is really another rule, another construct, created by those who needed everyone to follow the same rules. They're also observing you. Oh, how they observe! Clearly not. That is beyond their level of sophistication. In looks, in how discussions change when you participate, and how they subsequently interpret your remarks in an attempt to figure out your secret. Like anthropologists researching a new species, they study you. What do? They ponder. In what way do they navigate the world? They will attempt to mimic your words, your mannerisms, and your style, but it will always come across as a performance, since they are attempting to capture an energy that comes from being rather than doing. Some will come right up to you and ask for the secret. They will inquire about your self-assurance, presence, and vitality. They are looking for a recipe, a shortcut, or a blueprint that they can use to get what you have. Giving someone a fresh performance won't teach them to stop performing. To someone who has never stopped acting, authenticity is impossible to explain. Since there is no secret, just the bold act of being who you are without apology, you cannot divulge the secret. They are uncomfortable, but they are unable to turn away. Like a movie they can't stop thinking about, but don't fully comprehend, you've become obsessively watchable. You remain in their thoughts as an enigma they are unable to unravel. When you're not around, they'll find themselves discussing you. Not gossip, that's too easy, but more like analysis, trying to figure out what makes you unique, how you exude energy, and why you make them feel like extras in their own life. It is both enthralling and disgusting. They find your genuineness appealing, but they also feel intimidated by it. They dread what it might mean for their own meticulously crafted facades, but they want to grasp your strength. They will analyze what you say in order to uncover any hidden meanings. They will examine your selections, looking for trends they can imitate. They will examine your responses in an effort to identify the formula that gives you unwavering confidence. What they fail to see is that you have surpassed algorithms, patterns, and formulas. You work from a location of complete authenticity that is impossible to copy or reverse engineer. Giving $100 is not just money. It is a lamp, a prayer, a new beginning for a soul in darkness. They will develop hypotheses regarding your background, experiences, and strengths, to get around the obvious fact that they have the ability to choose this power at any time. They will come up with complex justifications for why you are able to be who you are while they are not. Because you stand for something they believed was unattainable, a human who can exist entirely without their consent. The study becomes more intense. You are a living example of how their whole social structure is optional. Since you were the one who escaped, you end up becoming their obsession. They're still stuck in the matrix that you got out of. They were unaware of the exit door until you located it. When your existence contradicts their core assumptions about how the world functions, their analysis becomes desperate. The rules they've been taught are unchangeable, but you're not abiding by them. You're not looking for the approval they've been told they need. They believe that everyone must play the game, but you're not. The more they observe you, the more they understand that it is choice, not circumstance, talent, or luck, that separates you from them. More than anything else, that frightens them. The most scary thing about you is that you've turned into a walking mirror. It's a mirror that shows people exactly what they're avoiding, not what they want to see. Every conversation they have with you turns into an awkward exchange of concessions. When you declare your truth without equating it with courteous disclaimers, observe their reactions. When you make decisions without consulting a committee, observe how they change. When you don't rush to cover awkward situations, observe how people rush to fill the void. They start to doubt every reduction they've given on their own, since you won't compromise on your value. Their perplexity is intolerable due to your lucidity. The most disturbing aspect is that you're not even attempting to expose them. All you're doing is being yourself, and it seems like that's enough to destroy any expertly crafted illusion within 50 feet. Most people aren't even aware that the channel you're broadcasting on exists. While they are still only able to communicate in black and white, it's as if you are communicating in colors. Their regularly planned programming is disrupted by your frequency. They literally short-circuit their mental processes around you. Their regular cycles of anxiety are disrupted. Even they think their prepared answers sound absurd at that moment. For bogus energy, you are a walking EMP. This is practical science, not some mystical bullshit. There's a noticeable dissonance when someone acting at main character frequency walks into an area crowded with extras. In a room full of out-of-tune instruments, it's like striking a tuning fork. Each one either rises to match your tone or reveals how off-key they've been all along. Some people will experience it physically, such as a little ache in their chest or an unexplained urge to put distance between them or move closer. Your presence makes it impossible to ignore the gap they are experiencing between who they are and who they are pretending to be. Things that used to destroy you no longer affect you. Once you have fully accepted who you are, rejection doesn't hurt as much. Once you stop looking to others for approval, criticism becomes less effective. A story that you know ends with your evolution turns failure into just another plot element. You've simply come to the realization that most of what people refer to as connection is merely mutual performance. Not that you've grown cold or disengaged. The majority of what is referred to as caring is really codependency masquerading as compassion. You still have strong emotions, but you no longer allow them to dictate your story. You become incomprehensible when you don't have the same want for things that everyone else has: validation, approval, and belonging. The same techniques cannot be used to control you. People who read others to navigate the world can no longer read you. For people who depend on trends, you have become unpredictable. For people who rely on everyone following the same script, you have turned into a risk. Even your $10 can answer amen to a child's prayer. Remember Jesus' compassion for the little ones. By doing this, you have dismantled the basic tenet that most people cling to, the notion that power requires authorization. You no longer wait for someone to find you, approve of you, or grant you a leadership position. You began filming after casting yourself. The force is disturbed as a result of this paradigm shift. In essence, you are demonstrating that the entire system is optional each time you select from the main character energy. Every time you achieve success without adhering to the rules, you demonstrate to others that they were really recommendations masquerading as laws. This is a continuous process rather than a final destination. Main character energy is something you pick, scene by scene, moment by moment. It's not something you get and then coast on. It's the ongoing decision to be who you are instead of what you believe other people want you to be. On other days, there will be a lot of pressure to go back to a supporting position. The universe is made for followers, extras, and those who don't challenge the plot. Swimming against that current all the time is what it means to be the main character. What you now know cannot be undone. You can never really experience what it's like to live an unashamed life. Asking for permission to fully exist is no longer an option. The change cannot be reversed, because the protagonist of one story must occasionally be the antagonist in another. You have accepted the villain arc when it is required. Sometimes those who profited from your smallness perceive growth as betrayal. For people who depended on you to remain the same, development might occasionally feel like desertion. You are simply refusing to be an NPC in your own life. You're not the villain. You're refusing to say things that don't reflect your reality. Playing parts that ask you to be someone you're not is something you're refusing to do. Your entire life has become gamified. Every obstacle turns into a level to finish, every obstacle into a plot twist to work through, and every accomplishment into a key. Your life has become the most captivating game you have ever played, and you are the winner as well as the player. Constant attention to detail, not paranoia, but awareness, is necessary for the maintenance. You have to always choose progress over stagnation, truth over comfort, and authenticity over acceptance. There are new chances every day to either amplify or weaken your protagonist energy. You've discovered that sustaining this energy requires accepting discomfort. It entails acknowledging that you will frequently be the only person in the room with a clear perspective. It entails carrying the burden of awareness in a world that would rather remain in slumber. The continuous procedure involves frequent recalibration. You have to continuously evaluate whether your behavior is consistent with who you really are or if you have resumed your performance. Even the main characters may find themselves reverting to the script due to the powerful urge toward conformity. You have created internal alert systems. You promptly change your direction when you find yourself seeking too much acceptance, explaining too much, or dimming your light too much. You've taken on the role of your own director, yelling cut whenever a scene doesn't seem real. Additionally, you now know that being the protagonist does not imply being the sole character. You've mastered the ability to see and encourage others to be their true selves. You now know how to lead without controlling, to shine without overshadowing, and to inspire without terrifying. Managing your energy like a valuable resource is part of the continuous process. You've learned to say maybe to everything else, yes to energy givers, and no to energy vampires. You now choose where to spend your time, focus, and emotional energy with brutal ruthlessness. Most importantly, you now know that being true to your mission is essential to sustaining protagonist energy. Being real isn't your only goal. You also want to be so genuine that you allow others to be the same. You've turned into a real-life illustration of what may happen when someone puts themselves first. So here you are, the protagonist, the one who makes everyone else feel like extras. Not because you are better, but because you are genuine in a world of scripted encounters, and not because you minimize their performance. The ultimate truth has been revealed to you. We are all leading characters who have been persuaded to take on supporting parts. You were the first to remember. You simply refused to forget. You just made the decision that it was worthwhile to tell your tale honestly. You now navigate the world as though you are aware of the secret. Reality bends around people who don't bend themselves. Those who respect themselves enough to quit performing are respected by the universe. Being the center of your own existence is what that main character energy is all about, not getting attention. This is only the beginning of a story in which you are, at last, unabashedly, the protagonist. The credits are not yet rolling, and this is not the conclusion. And the rest of you? In a world where you have completely altered the genre, they are merely attempting to understand their place. Welcome to your life, the unedited version, the director's cut, the narrative in which you are not only the protagonist, but also the only significant character in your own life. They are frightened by that, and it should be just that way.